Final hour for the week overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Our best bets later in the hour. Dear Hayesy-B in half an hour. And a lot of NHL games going on today. The Leafs are in Tampa waiting on the Lightning. They just beat the Preds in overtime. Predators lose again. 16. Yeah, it's wild, man. The Preds just find a way to lose.
Dude, if you had told me that, like around where we do a preview show kind of on this show where we make predictions. If you had told me that, like, aren't the Preds near like the last in the National Hockey League?
Yep.
They got 19 points. They are 30th right now.
I just would have said no way, Jamie.
And Nashville, San Jose, and Chicago's got 18 points. So they're basically in a three-way tie for second last place.
I would have said absolutely no way. Just no way. It was like
because of the moves that they made in the offseason. They went to they were the same team that made the playoffs last year, and then they added Marchessault and Stamkos and who's
Brady
the
Shea on the back
Brady
end.
Shea. Like they should on paper they should be better. They're just not. Like I watched that game again today. A part of it before I came on. Like they had some good chances. They were around. It's just I can't put my finger on what's going on there. But, again, it's easy. I don't know with expectation, maybe different market. They might look at changing the coach. Hayes, you brought up the point where, Barry Trotz is the guy who's made all the moves. The owner might just say to him, well, you go behind the bench. You know what I mean?
I don't think he wants to do that, man. I don't think Barry wants to coach the Preds.
No, I wouldn't want to be in that position either if I were him because now you got to own it on two different fronts. Right? Like you put the team together in large part as the GM, and now you're responsible for coaching it out of an absolute dumpster fire. I mean, that's where they are right now. And I think it's just gone too far into the year. They've played 24 games. They're 7, 12, and 4.
5.
Or 7, 12, and 5 now. That's a lot of games and a lot of heavy lifting to get back into a race. It's kind of crazy that's where they're at. Pittsburgh's right there with them. So, Tampa, they got themselves a win. They'll be flying home, and the Leafs will be waiting for them tomorrow. The Panthers just beat Carolina 6-3. So now Florida will jump over the Leafs in terms of points, and Leafs will have a couple of games in hand. But sounds like Florida might have got the message from a couple of days ago. Time to snap out of that little slump you're in and get going again. And I think that's the pace car in the East. I think when you consider what's going on with the Rangers, and they lost again today, the Leafs are good, Tampa's good, Jersey's pretty good, Carolina's good, but the pace car is Florida, and it probably that's not
they earned that.
Some surprise. Exactly.
I mean?
They've been in two straight Cup finals. I think it was more a question of they did lose some pieces. Would there be a bit of a cup hangover? Would it just be difficult to get back on the horse? And it would appear as if that's not the case for this group and this team. And regardless of where they end up in the standings and who they play in the first round, if they're healthy, Florida's going to be a favorite.
I don't think an overwhelming favorite like they were last year, though. They've went to the finals. They've got miles on them. And they're going to be a part of about 5 or 6 to 8 teams that, get cooking. And whoever gets the best goaltending and gets guys hot is going to have the best chance. Last year I thought they were overwhelming. Like when they threw their best games at teams, it was like, you're not stopping that. Right? Nobody could do it. I mean, the Oilers almost made the miracle, but I don't know if they're going to be as – I still love what they do come playoff time when they get cooking, but I think it's so wide open. Like for years I always thought like of teams – like even if Colorado doesn't get a goalie, I don't think they can't be considered ultra scary if they have no goaltending, for crying out loud. They give up a 5 spot a night.
I think that the beauty of all of this though, like you come back to Florida, I don't think Florida cares where they end up in the standings. I really don't either. I think they're just like we know and I always try and reserve judgment for teams that have won or teams that have gone deep. You're like, okay, what do they look like after the deadline? Like, what did they add to? You mentioned, Florida's lost a couple pieces. Montour was, I think, was a key piece on the back end.
Big
He's
time.
a good puck mover. But outside of the edges, it's Nick Cousins, it's Lomberg, it's guys like that went and got paid in other organizations. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like guys like that, to me, like they moved on because they weren't part of the core. They still have the framework, and then what you do is you either have guys internally that push, or you're going to have to go acquire them. Like that's why I want to see what Florida looks like after the deadline. If they feel like their D are good enough, or they need to add one more piece. Mm-hmm. Colorado, I think Colorado can be a wagon if, and there's a giant if. You're right. If the goalie and or somebody else comes in and helps the goalie. But if you get Nichushkin back, you can't trust the guy. The guy had 9 goals in the playoffs last year and then fell, off a cliff, unfortunately, personal issues. But if they go and get somebody, and, Hayes, you started it the other day, Sid to the Leafs, it's Sid to Colorado to play with his body, like that's what you hear is, maybe Sid wants to play with McKinnon. Maybe Sid wants to, who knows what Sid wants to do. But Colorado's not going to sit on their hands. They believe this is McKinnon's wheelhouse. This is McCarr's wheelhouse. They're both having amazing seasons. Rantanen's going to be an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
Like, they've got stuff to sort out there, but they're a really good team.
They are. Vegas.
I'm kind of waiting.
Vegas, a really good team. Edmonton's going to be a good team. Yeah, I mean, I think we're deep enough into the season where you can pick off the 8 to 10 teams that are all going to be in that running. Winnipeg, the same thing. Like Winnipeg's got a big. I think Winnipeg's got Vegas tonight, and Winnipeg has been the pace car in the NHL all year. Yet, because of what their history is in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to be considered like a powerhouse must-take to win the Stanley Cup or even the first round, regardless of how the rest of the season plays out. They can lap the field and run away with things. And if they play Colorado in the first round, there will be a lot of people that think the Avalanche will win that series.
How
or
could
should
you
be
not
favored.
after what happened last year?
Exactly. And that you just got to own your history. There's certain teams where it's a positive history, and you get to own that. And there's a certain history where it's negative, and you have to own that too. And that's the way it goes.
And it applies to certain teams. Like you just said, like the Leafs could end up with 106 points and, be right there. And it's like, okay, show me what you could do in April. That's
130 points, Noodles.
Whatever.
Like, you can win the President's Trophy.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's, so they've
done
that.
106.
Winnipeg has earned that. Like that, in recent years, that core has gone to a conference final, but not in recent years. Like we're talking the last couple of years. 7
years ago or whatever. But you're right.
Ago?
Yeah, it was 17, I think, against Vegas. Vegas won the cup or went to the cup final that year. I think that was their first year. That was Vegas' first year in the league. It might have been 16 or 17.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, the point. Recent memory is, you are what we've seen. It's not. We're not trying to be hard on you. Like this is what we know of that core group, of that situation. And you see if you can bust through that.
Absolutely. That's you got to own it. You got to own who you are and what you've done throughout your career. All right, here's Dear Hayesy-B later in the hour. Here's former NHLer. You see him on the NHL Network, Jason Demers, joining us here on Overdrive. What's happening, Jason?
What's going on, boys? Happy Thanksgiving in America land.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving in America land. What a day of games, man. What do you got your eye on today? There's so much going on in the league.
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of I just watched the end of that. Well, the whole Sharks game. I do radio with them. It's just a wild. They're a fun team to watch right now with all their youth and skill, and they play a Harlem Trotter style of hockey. So it's fun to watch when it works and exciting. But the other games I watch is just the collapse of the Rangers right now. It's been a sight to see the downfall they've had these past 5 games.
What do you attribute that? I didn't like what Drury. I don't know if it's like confirmed full details, that stunt with Kreider and Trouba, but that just seemed like to make everything more awkward than it already was.
Well, doesn't it feel it feels like them in Boston this year have kind of management wise mishandled this season a bit with just how they've kind of let stuff slip or leak into the media and obviously, like we talked about a little bit on the network, you go with Jacob Trouba, you try to move him this offseason, he's your captain. You basically tell the whole team that he's not wanted. He obviously doesn't accept to waive it. He stays. And then how do you, as a captain, try to police the locker room when you've gotten your wings clipped by management, essentially? So you've seen this kind of like topsy-turvy style of play from them, not much heart. They're really not battling hard. They're giving up too many scoring chances. Early in the year, we all got fooled because Shesterkin was playing so great, but their underlying numbers of how many opportunities they give up from the inner slot, off the rush, I think they're the worst rush team against in the league. And it's just kind of been snowballing downhill, and now Shesty's not playing the best he's played, and they're losing every game. And and they're very much a team that likes to play with the lead just because they're such a counterpunch team. But when they're chasing the game, it just doesn't seem to work. It's not a conducive style for them. And right now, I just don't see any fire from any of them. And obviously it took with the Bruins. I blame a little bit. The ownership does have to fall on the players at the end of the day. But listen, coaching staff behind the bench and then management needs to take their licks with this as well. And I think they've mismanaged this offseason and this year categorically, just like the Bruins did.
So just to finish on the Rangers, if you take a look at that group that won the President's Trophy, decent in the playoffs, but if you feel like you came back with the same team, it's more just about finding another level. Do you think that something in the room is off, or do they have the horses to get it done over the top? I watched that game today. Panarin's a fantastic player, but I think he's more of a perimeter player. He doesn't stick his nose in it. The puck seems to come to him. Zibanejad has been snake bitten, but he's a guy that they've spot shadowed several times where he's soft plays coming back, soft, and all the focus is on like Trouba and maybe Kreider. But don't you think if you look at the spine of the team, do they have the horses to get it over the hill to the next level, or do you think they do need a shakeup?
I think it's due because you tried to run it back with the same team, but look what they lost to in the playoffs last year. A team that's grit, gets in your face, plays along the yellow, and that's not their style. And they didn't add any of that this offseason. They got rid of the only guy that scored goals in that round, which was Barclay Goodrow. You try to infuse Matt Rempe in and out of the lineup. He does bring an energy to that team, but again, he's not going to go out and win you hockey games. He's kind of there to provide a little bit of spark, but they don't have much grit. And then, they've been waiting for Keandre Miller for years now to become the backbone of this decor along with Adam Fox. And I just don't think he's really taken that next step because they can't listen. Ryan Lindgren's a battle. He's a warrior. He tries hard, but he's not a top pairing defenseman. And what happens is you're asking him to do too much. And then now they really just haven't found anything on that back end that's a solid top four consistently. So, and obviously you want Trouba to do something, but you've said the rumors have been around that he's getting traded. So how do you want him to react as a player? It's hard as a player when you have all that noise and obviously you're making the money. You have to show up. You have to play hockey, but there's a psychological effect of knowing that they don't want you here and you got to come into the rink every day and play and tell the teammates to play hard, knowing that, the writing's on the wall a little bit for you. So I think there needs to be a shakeup there. I think it's high time. Unfortunately, their best line, which I would probably trade somebody from, is the Kakko Cooley Hedl line. And, Hedl's been out, but I obviously think like a Capo Kakko is the only guy you can really get something for and get a player for. I don't know what you're going to get for Trouba right now, and obviously Chris Kreider. I'm not sure I'd want to separate myself from a guy like Chris Kreider when I think he still is such a great goal scorer and does go to the net hard, and great penalty killer, great power play guys. So it's tough. They're in a tough spot right now, and this time of the year is usually the cutoff when it's Thanksgiving about teams deciding whether they're making a move, shaking it up, or standing pat. But I think they need to have a shake-up somewhere within this organization.
With Jason Demers, NHL Network, former NHLer, in terms of where the Leafs would fit into the pecking order in the East, how do you look at the Maple Leafs and are they closer to the top end, somewhere in the middle? They're going to be a playoff team, clearly. Tons of high-end talent. But from the outside looking in, what is your kind of analysis of where the Maple Leafs are at?
Well, the Maple Leafs, I heard you guys talking before a little bit, and I agree with you guys. The Maple Leafs and the Jets are kind of like a wake me up in April. Like, I know they're going to make the playoffs, but what are you going to do come playoff time? And I think they address some needs. Grit-wise, I like everything they've brought in. They've done really well in absence of Austin Matthews, so I want to see how Austin slides back into this lineup. But, the biggest thing for the Leafs is they've found a goaltending duo on the cheap, and that's hard to do. And I think Anthony Stolarz has been fantastic this year and really taken some pressure off of Joseph Woll. So, Woll can come in and really just find his game, and which he has. So I think this duo they have, this weird, you would never expect that this duo making just over $3 million is going to bring them to the promised land. But, I've seen stranger things, and I do think Anthony Stolarz learned a lot last year in the Panthers, and I feel like he's been waiting for his opportunity to be a starter. He just has never been in the right position on the right team, and now here he is kind of taking the reins, and he's been fantastic. So I think I like what I see on the goaltending. I would try to maybe add something, maybe add some more depth, but right now, listen, they look good, they play well. Craig Berube's got them playing a defensive, tough-nosed style, and the way that something they've been missing, but it all comes down to once game one of the playoffs happen, and obviously we're so early to be talking playoffs, but it's just one of those teams when you look at the Atlantic. The Atlantic's not the biggest juggernaut and never has been for the past 5 years because the Sabres, Red Wings, Senators can't figure it out. So it's probably going to be the Lightning, Panthers, Maple Leafs again, and we'll get either the Maple Leafs in the Lightning round one or something like that. So we'll get something. It just seems like it's the same thing. So I'm just kind of waiting till playoffs for them, and same thing with the Jets. It's what happens come round one, game one of the playoffs, because I think they'll be fine all season, and they're going to kind of cruise into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the direction they've been going in, and that's what they've been doing for years. That's ultimately where a lot of people stand in this market, and it's going to come down to their best players stepping up in the biggest moments. Because of what you said, I think they've solidified their defense core with Tanev and Ekman-Larsson. Their goaltenders have been pretty good. We'll see who starts. I mean, that's a legitimate conversation all year. Who's going to be your number one? But come go time, and it's not even the first 5 or 6 games of a playoff series. They're fine there. It's generally, what do you do in Game 7? Like the biggest moment. Yeah. That's when you need to put up or shut up.
Or do you have any gas after you do win a series?
Like we
you
saw
got to do it 3 more series.
Right. You got to keep going. It's tough. It's a grind. But anyway, yeah, we'll see, man. U.S. Thanksgiving. I guess we're at that point, like you said, Jason, where I think most teams kind of know who they are and what they have to do, and we'll see where it goes from here. We appreciate you doing this. We'll ask you about San Jose actually on the way out. You mentioned because you cover the team and. Obviously, you're very familiar with them and used to play for them. Yeah. Celebrini, man, give us the goods on this kid. His numbers have been phenomenal. We've seen him play. We've seen the highlights, but how good is this kid, and how lucky are the Sharks that they won this first overall lottery?
Oh, I mean, it's enormous. He is a franchise player. Just what I've heard in the locker room as well. He's a grown-up already. He doesn't walk or act or even play like an 18-year-old. He's so good defensively in terms of his work ethic with his stick down low. I mean, he's won the most puck battles in the NHL. He leads the NHL in puck battles won, which is a crazy stat to lead in, especially with the time he missed. He plays a good 200-foot game. I mean, he just had a couple, 2-3 points, I think, tonight. And again, one of the goals, he out-battles somebody in the neutral zone, makes a great backhand pass across ice, and then it leads to a goal. And then, obviously, when he scored tonight, it's just an elite release. So I think he was missing high early in the season. He was really trying to paint the corners, and now he seems to have really settled in and just kind of seen that he doesn't need to try to shoot it through the net, but just good placement on his shots, and he's scoring at a good clip. So he's special. He really is. He's fun to watch, and he battles and competes, and that's what you want. And I think what every GM, when they draft the guy first overall, they're just like, please play like this, and he doesn't really need much development. So I'm anxious to see come the game 50, 60, once he starts getting into the dog days a little bit. But right now he's been fantastic, and for me he's one of the Calder front runners easily, in which we kind of thought starting the season, but he lives up to the hype, and I think Sharks fans are super, super happy. And I know the GM staff, the GMs there, Mike Greer and Ryan Clough and Doug Wade and Tom Holy, and then obviously the coaching staff, they love what they see from him, and all they kind of are trying to do is guide him and make sure he doesn't do too much and just kind of play his game, and that is more than enough.
Well, he's a special player, and I think isn't he living with like Jumbo Joe and hanging out with?
You got Jumbo no shirt on all the time, so I'm waiting for Macklin to start walking around the room butt naked and just doing interviews with no tarp on.
The last question, and before I let you go, have you seen, and I want everybody to weigh in on this, they've got a kid, Will Smith, who's going to be a really nice player and is a good young player. Yep. Why number 2? Like, he's a forward. That's the lowest number I've ever seen for a forward. Like, to me, that's a stay-at-home, blocking shots defenseman, a guy high and hard off the glass. This guy's got number 2. I don't know why. Is there a reason behind it, or is it just it's weird for me? I called the game the other night. I couldn't believe this guy was playing up front, and he's number 2.
I know. That's a question I'm definitely going to ask him next time I see him. I'm going to meet with them on the road. But he's not playing like a stay-at-home. I think he's got he's got 6 points in his last 3 games, so he kind of took a little bit more time than Macklin to get his feet under him, but he looks really good. He's got an elite shot, and, man, he can pass the puck. But, yeah, I think he's maybe just trying to hide there so everybody thinks he's a tough guy as a stay-at-home defenseman and no one touches him. But he's been good for them, too. Their last little stretch, they're playing some good hockey right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won again today, and there you go. Scoring a lot of goals, and they're young. They're not going to be a playoff team, but at least they're going to be entertaining. Sure feels that way. He is Jason Demers. We appreciate you doing this, Jason. We'll do it again down the road. Thank you for this.
All right, have a great one, guys. Take care.
You got it. Jason Demers of the NHL Network, former NHLer, former Shark, and Celebrini, man, he is a rock star.
He's a
right
good
now.
Player. He's legit.
He's doing all the right things. Here's a guy who started out with a bang, and I don't know if he jumped into a black hole, but when is the last time we've talked about or you've heard the name Trevor Zegras in the NHL?
Honest to God, that game was just on L.A., Anaheim. That guy, I think he's fallen behind in his progression because he thought the league was going to be easy. And he just kind of fancy-dancy out there.
And if you criticized anything, all of the nerds came at you saying, you don't enjoy a good wrap around Michigan. And I don't...
Cover boy for the
yes.
Dude, remember at the All-Star game in Vegas, he wheeled out there in the outfit, and he was the it thing in the NHL. I have no idea what he's up to. I don't claim to watch a ton of Ducks games, but have you heard anything about that guy? Highlights, anything?
If he comes up, it's the way you're asking it. It's what's up with this guy. Like, that's what I read more than anything about. He'll pop up on Twitter like, what's up with Trevor Zegras, or you'll see something on TSN.ca. Zegras struggling, Ducks falling behind. Like, it seems to be a consistent theme out there.
He's got 4 goals on the season, but the one thing, he's not 18 anymore. He's 23. And what's happened is they've got some younger guys on that team that have pushed through him. That Carlson kid can play. We know Mason McTavish. They've got some guys, Cutter Gauthier. Cutter Gauthier is actually settled in. The thing is there's guys that have pushed him out, and their details are a lot better. Zegras still trying to play road hockey. And I think he's actually trying to bear down and learn the game, but he's late because he thought it was just going to be an easy league and fancy, and all of a sudden the league is like, yeah, we'll close time and space on you. He's not a burner, so he's not super fast. And to me, watching him, if he's not getting just power play time and just kind of, trying to slow the game down, make plays, he gets closed off immediately. Like, I think that's a guy that is really at a crossroads for what he is as a player right now. And it's a great point. I've been watching those guys play, like, he is non-existent compared to the other players.
Well, if he doesn't figure it
out,
his agent should be smart enough to let him know. He either starts scoring at a different weight or a different rate, gets a couple miles per hour added to his legs, or figure out how to check, or it's going to be difficult to find something to do in the league.
You're right.
Yeah, and he's a big piece down there, man. And like, he was great in the World Juniors, and
that's a long time ago, though, man.
I understand that, but he was a guy that I think the league was banking on. Like, that's a market that needed. The days of Getzlaf and Perry and Solani and Correa are well behind them, and they're trying to find that next wave, and it's a tough market, right?
Yeah.
Because
he was thought to be a part of their wave.
Yeah, exactly. And he played with some personality, and he was good on social media and all that kind of stuff. But all of it's irrelevant if you don't perform.
Well, there's always, we talk about it, there's guys who love the game of hockey but actually hate playing it. I don't say that's him, but you have to back it up on the ice, and then everything that comes with the game of hockey, he's really good at. The fancy suits and the interviews and the surfer dude type of hair and all of that. But you have to have the flash and you have to back it up on the ice.
You have to perform and produce.
He hasn't done that in 2 years. He was injured last year. But this year, he looks like he's kind of, fallen back a step for me watching him.
I think the fact that we're having this conversation would pretty much confirm that with Zegras.
Yeah.
All right, the football game is over. The Chiefs miraculously found a way to win. They had actually, following it, it felt like the Raiders were going to win the ball game late. Chiefs win 19-17, but that means the Raiders cover. That's one chalked up for Owen Wilson. Hazenbro back to only +5.
I told you I was going to tweet out the guy in the coffin on the pickup, and it's out in the universe.
You feel like you guys are back. Well, listen, there's a lot of games left to be played. It's a long season. We were in a very dark place there for about 4 or 5 weeks. You guys have found yourself in a place of darkness the last 4 or 5 weeks. There's 3 games on Sunday, a Monday nighter, and then a bunch of games coming up. A lot of Saturday games still to come. A lot of games to be played the rest of the way here, and It's still It's a one possession game. We're only +5 right now. Bad pick, bad call.
Bad pick.
Freddie Kitchens, bad call, bad pick. We should have taken the points. Way too many points. The Chiefs never blow anybody out. Like, that's the bigger conversation here. Even though the Chiefs have won, they're 11-1. They've punched a ticket to the playoffs now. And the chats will be, should you be concerned with the Chiefs? Why is the offense
they
not
don't blow
better?
anyone out, but all they do is win.
They find a way to win every week.
Yes,
they beat Carolina by 3 points and Vegas by 2 at home. Yet they're 11-1. And they were in the game against Buffalo until Josh Allen went Superman and ran that touchdown in the fourth quarter to close the game out. So, they're very comfortable in one-score games, which I think is a real benefit to have come playoff time. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come later in the hour. Dear Hayesy-B coming up as well. Melon Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza's new game day menu. Stop by your local BP for $7 touchdown pints. Shareables for the whole crew and weekly prizing up for grabs. Football game days are better at your local BP. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus.
Insight, the ability to see and understand why you do the things you do.
Dear Hayesy-B.
We're going to go down there and have a donkey barbecue, and I'm going to furnish the ass, right?
You don't want to hide a Mars bar in your sleeping bag when there's a bear outside the tent.
Once again, we're just going to have to bring it to the people.
Yep.
Little sports, little life problems, a little bit of everything. But I got this one sent to me, and Noodles, I'd like you to start. Because it's hockey and it's goalie.
Ooh.
Dear Hayesy-B, why isn't Marc-Andre Fleury getting any love from Team Canada? Big name, stud goalie, lots of experience, and still playing well. Put him on the team with that lineup, and I give you an Al's brother guarantee that we will win.
Wow. Al's brother guarantee.
Wow.
That's just a part of the lexicon now.
That is an let me just say that that's an idiotic comment.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, and he's my
the Al's
partner.
brother part.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you guys heard me bring up Marc-Andre Fleury, correct?
You've mentioned him as a good guy in the room, though. What if he has to play? What if he has to play, though?
I'd like him to be my 3. I swear that he played today. Like, I'm pretty sure he played a game today. But, I mean, he's a guy that can still give you minutes. In a short-term situation, I would put him on the team. Personally, I would have him on the team. But I would have him as my 3. Yes, the Wild won 3-2 today, and Fleury was in net. They beat Chicago. So he can still get it done, but he's not my starter. I still think Binnington gets that. I still think that there's other guys ahead of him. But he could be one of my 3? Absolutely, because he's a guy that could still play, and he's won before, and he has great relationships with everybody. He's a glue guy. And to me, in a short tournament, you need guys who are positive influences in the room. So I'm going to agree with that guy.
Yeah, I can reason with that, but I still feel like on the national team, especially with this position, I think you need your third guy to be an option to play for you because.
But he can play.
But is he going to be hot though? Like that's my thing. Yes, he obviously can play. He's still technically playing, but what if Binnington's just a mess? What if Adin Hill gets hurt? You know what? I guess what I'm saying is I might go with a guy who's like still in his prime, not the same history as Flower, obviously, and everything you said about the way people would react to him and him being around the team is 100% valid. And if they had like a 1-2 that were like studs, Price in his prime and Luongo in his prime, I'd be like, throw Flower a bone. He's third guy. He's never going to play. Hat on, cheerleader type. But I think the third guy, because the first 2 are not playing that well and are not like Vezina-worthy superstar Hall of Fame guys, I think there has to be some strategy in terms of how the guy will actually play if he gets in the net.
Well, so far he's 5-0-1 this season. So
playing on Minnesota, though, like they're beating everybody at this point. But, yeah, okay.
Yeah. He's just one of those guys that plays –
I would be, yes, because put it this way, I'm comfortable because he still can play. He just turned 40 the other day, but he's still it's not like he's Marty Brodeur 40 and can't touch his toes and making skate saves. Like this guy can actually he's producing at the NHL level. They're not just I think he can. I just don't think he's their starter. That's the thing. I think he's a guy that can come in if somebody else struggles, and you've got guys who are mid-20s or late 20s that are going to be on the team. I don't know if Adin Hill makes a team. I don't know. I don't know if Stuart Skinner makes a team. I don't know if Darcy Kemper makes a team. The one guy that I do believe will be on the team is Binnington, and after that you've got some guys. People are talking about Joey Decord. He's a really nice goaltender. But
got to get a passport, though. That was a stretch to get this guy a passport, Hazy.
I find that so embarrassing. I don't think we can allow ourselves to do that.
Dude, it was on SC. I think it was Johnny's voice. It was like, if we can get this guy a passport, I like it. And I was like, we are wanting guys to get a passport. Honestly, to play goalie for Canada?
This is Canada where we are taking a guy who is a clear-cut American and begging him to get a passport. Wow. That to me is summit-worthy stuff. That's where the summit. That to me would be such a declaration of desperation and a sign of where we are.
It hurt. I started crying when I heard that.
Honestly,
I was like,
listen, I wouldn't like it if someone told me, "Hey, you know what? It turns out Hellebuck's Canadian. We could have." I'd still say no. Joey Decord, we're like, you got to get this guy a passport.
Hang on a sec. Let me back that one up. If Hellebuck's dad, Chuck, called you and said, Hazy, I'm not sure you knew this, but we got an option to get a Canadian passport tomorrow. What do you think?
You're flying.
Do you want me on? Hang on. Chuck said to you, do you want me on the show and we'll go over it? What would you say?
I would flush Chuck. I would say, Chuck, take a lap. You're not invited on the show. I don't... Hellebuck's American. He's born in the States. He came up in the American program.
But I'm just saying, in Fantasyland, what if his mom was Canadian and he had a presser with Sarah Orlesky in the morning and he said, I got an option. I can get a passport and play for Canada.
A Freddie Freeman situation? Like
yes.
Freddie played for Canada because his parents are Canadian?
Brett Hull had the option. He didn't think he was going to make the Canadian team, so what did he do?
Why.
He went and played for U.S.
And that's what I'm saying. Now Joey Decore would be like, I can never play for the Americans. I'll go play for this country up north. So it's embarrassing that it's even a conversation.
I get that it's embarrassing, but if he can help your team, you take it. That's my thing. And
find a third guy. Put Skinner in there, Montembeault, Flower.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there are guys that are
Cam
capable.
Talbot in there.
Right. Like, there's got lots of capable goaltenders that it's who's going to be hot in 2 weeks. And I've told you guys this. I know we argue about this, but in the end, whoever wins, you know what? You add that with a bag of beans, it's just a bag of beans. Nobody cares that, hey, I'm going to put this nation's face-off, whatever it is, on my mantle. It doesn't matter. It's a made-up tournament.
But it's going to matter in a year from now, though, Noodles, and it's the same goalies. Yes. We're going to have the exact same problem at the Olympic Games. It's going to be. This is a precursor for what's coming.
As far as goaltending, you're right. But I'm just saying you might have, hopefully the Russians will be in the Olympics, and it'll be best on best.
But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. That doesn't have anything to do with goaltending if the Russians are playing or not. Joey Decord may be on the Olympic team for Canada.
Right.
Like that. I think we're going to be having the same conversation a year from now.
Unless a Canadian goaltender wins it this year. And you're like, we saw the guy could do it. But 7 out of 10 have been 7 out of 10 of the last Stanley Cup winners.
How many Canadians would be in your top 10, though, right now? If you're building a roster.
But what is it like? But winning still matters. That's
I know,
my
but
point.
It's a best-of-7 series. It's a Stanley Cup grind. It's, there's more context to it than a one-off.
And those guys have been able. My point is, those guys have been able to do a Stanley Cup grind because they've won. I guess that's my point. They've actually been able. The biggest trophy, not a made-up one. Like, that's my point. This means nothing. This tournament, it means nothing.
But you're still going to play the game. They're still going to care about the game. They're not going to pull the goalie with 12 minutes left. They're still going to play.
Personally, I am going to watch the tournament, obviously, but I hope that what GMs, the people I've been talking to, and AGMs and that. Some of them are like, God, I hope my player doesn't get hurt there. That's what's going to happen.
Well, of course, they're always going to think that way.
It's going to change the course of it. But I guess my point being is the Stanley Cup and Stanley Cup playoffs are a lot more important and on a bigger scale than a made-up tournament. And the goalies that I just laid out have all won Stanley Cups and have been able to have success at the top, in the biggest games. That's, Jordan Binnington did it. Darcy Kemper's done it. Aiden Hill's done it. Marc-Andre Fleury's done it. Those are guys that have actually done it when it actually matters, not in a homemade tournament with 4 teams. That's kind of what I'm saying.
We'll see what happens when we get there. I hope you're right, Noodles. I hope you're right. But if it gets to a point where Binnington's out there and he gives up brutal goals and they lose, people are going to snap.
Yeah. Well, you're right, because that the Olympics mean more than the following year.
Because this is just a precursor. Right. No one's showing up miraculously in the next 12 months who's a 20-year-old Canadian kid that's the best goalie in the world by the Olympic Games. It's not going to happen. Anyway.
No, you're right.
What else do we have here?
This one is short and sweet, and it's for all the men.
We turned it into an argument. Sorry.
Yelling about Joey Decord's passport on Dear Hayesy-B. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm looking at the host here.
Guys.
No, the host. It's your program.
Joey Decord was not even that was about Fleury, and you guys turned it into Decord.
Joey
That was about Marc-Andre Fleury, a nice little Christmas thing.
You went down the Chuck Hellebuck route, too. You were playing the game.
Rick Hellebuck.
Chuck Hellebuck. That is his name, Chuck.
Chuck.
Anyway, this one's festive.
All right, moving on.
And it's very generic. It's about every man out there. Dear Hayesy-B, the wife said to me last night, no gifts this year between us, correct? We're really doing it. Does that mean it, or do I have to get her something?
It doesn't mean it for you. It could mean it for her. That's the reality. For you, that does not mean that.
I had this exact conversation, though, with head shakes and everything. We're really not getting gifts.
So did I. It's an annual tradition in my house. We do it every single year. And then...
So you got to come up with something.
Yeah, nothing major. I think what that conversation is nothing crazy, right? So this is
No, dude.
yes, it is. It doesn't mean you're not buying her a new car or something.
Yeah, I know, but they would love that.
Well,
it would be
sure,
like, you
but-
know what? Privately, you made it the best Christmas ever.
Obviously, it would be amazing.
They want the big deal.
I don't think so. I
Christmas
think
is for kids.
I think it's Christmas is for kids, and that's a big part
It's
of
not
it.
for adults. If you're a grown-ass adult and you're putting in like I want this on my list, you've got a problem.
I think
sorry.
I
Anybody
agree with
who's-
that. If you have a
any
list and
adult-
you're an adult, you have a real problem.
If you're 30 and older and you put a list in, you've got a problem. I'm sorry. Like Christmas is for kids. They're
But-
not for adults.
Valid, but I think the conversation that we're having here, for me, is follow through. I don't know what you can expect coming your way, but if you're playing a game of poker here and she's bluffing you, saying, I'm not getting you anything, but then she gets you something and you don't get her something,
You're screwed,
look
dude.
out.
Yeah, you're in
yes.
big trouble, bud.
So do yourself a favor, follow through and get something, make it thoughtful, and then everyone's happy in the end. And if you don't, like I can speak for myself, I tell my wife every year, and I mean this 100% legitimately, I don't want anything. Like
Me
don't
neither,
get me-
man.
I don't want
I
anything.
get my own stuff. I don't want
Exactly.
anything.
I will be on TaylorMade's website getting stuff. Like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Yes.
I will find a way to get new TP5s and
You're an
all that
adult,
good
though.
stuff.
Dude,
Exactly.
I think they got a new rocket launcher coming out in Jan.
They do. Actually, you know what? I saw my neighbor had a TaylorMade box leaning up against his door today. And I'm like, this guy has been on fire the last week. That's
That
treating
is
himself.
crazy. Ordering it for yourself.
I would
you
guess-
got to keep that. You got to order that to your work.
Well, I may have just added him because, like I think his wife was at work, so it might have been, he opened the door, grabbed it, and who knows where that thing is right now.
In the
But
garage.
I saw a
Get it.
TaylorMade, looked like maybe irons, P790s if I had to guess. Anyway, continue. Do we
Dear
have time for
Hayesy-B,
one more?
Yeah,
one
we
more.
got quick one. This is a quick one. My buddy is convinced. This is for you, Hayesy-B, because you shook up the hockey world with your hot take. My buddy is convinced the Leafs will get Crosby after your hot take.
It was
I
a
can't even
report.
read this one with a straight
Yeah, it
face.
was a
Yeah.
report.
He even believes the Leafs would not have to trade Woll or take on Jari. He told me that if the Leafs get Crosby, I can go on a date with his mom, who's always had an eye on me, and she's recently single. Help me out. So I think he wants to know if your hot take's going to come to life. And I think the last part was nonsense. This
That
guy
seems
might be
really strange
That's tough.
that
Yeah,
you're that
that's
big
tough.
of a Leaf fan that you're willing to give a green light on a dating the mom card. That's a weird one.
like as if your mom's going to say yes.
Right. Hey, Mom, guess what? Sid's a Leaf. By the way,
Yeah.
Gary's waiting
Yeah.
downstairs.
Stifler's got his bar T-shirt on. You want to go out with him?
Yeah, like, get serious.
Yeah, that's not good.
Again, this was not a report because I've had people send me that stuff too. Hey, man, I heard what you said about Sid.
Yeah. You
I heard
reported
what
it.
you said about Sid.
Yeah, what are you hearing on Sid?
Yeah.
My point,
What
and
are
I
you hearing?
stand by it, is if he decides I want out, I think the Leafs should be willing to do whatever they have to get him. That was the point I was making, clear cut.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they will. Doesn't mean he'll want out. Doesn't mean he'd want to come up here. I will say, it's going to cost you assets. Of course it will. But Sid will be directing where he wants to go, and he's not young. He's got a couple years left. It's going to cost you a good amount. But there's no guarantees it would be Woll and Jari coming back. Who knows what the deal
No,
would look
I
like.
made that up.
Yeah,
like,
you
on the
threw that in
fly.
there. That Pittsburgh
I
would
made
likely
that up.
want to do
That
that.
was your point, Noodle. You were trying to say, like, you're not getting him for free because they're going to call up and say, we're tacking Jari
Right,
onto
like,
it and his
like,
contract,
all
and
I
we're
did
taking
was-
Cowan and Wall and other things.
Right.
Yeah, all I did was put my GM hat on and go, well, it's not going to cost you for like this is the funny thing. How we just spitballed something is coming like matter of fact. Like I hear this and it's not. Like Sid, at some point I will laugh out loud if somebody in a scrum goes to Sid after a game like, what about these reports of you wanting to
It's
go to
coming,
Toronto?
Noodles. It's coming. Someone's going to ask him, Sid, you ever thought of playing for the Leafs? And Sid's death stare is going to
Yes.
be wild when that happens because it's coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think he's leaving Pitt. That would be my guess, but I hope he does. And that's what I'm stating. I hope he does. I hope they're willing to move on from him. And I hope the Leafs do everything they can to make it happen, because I think it would be an incredible story. It would define the window of the Leafs this year and the next two. All in, figure it out, go from there. There you go. Check, please. All right, Dear Hayesy-B. Mail-in Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza's new game day menu. Stop by your local BP for $7 touchdown pints, shareables for the whole crew, and weekly prizing up for grabs. Football game days are better at your local BP. We'll come back with our best bets, wrap up a busy week, and look ahead to a busy weekend. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. 3-game parlay, 3-leg parlay Sunday, paying plus 584. Seahawks laying 1.5 against the Jets. Jets, I'm fading them all year. Bengals minus 2.5 at home against Pittsburgh. They have to have this game. Mandatory win. I think the Bengals show up. Ravens, Eagles, probably the game of the week. Going to be a great game. I'm laying the points. Ravens minus 3 at home. That parlay paying plus 584. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is the exclusive home of the Overdrive same-game parlay. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, physically located in Ontario.
Joe from the bridge off the top turnbuckle said William Nylander has a Canadian passport.
There you go.
He
Get
does,
Willie
yeah.
for Team Canada. Why is it only Joey Decord? Why not get Willie? Come on. Joey Decord and William
true.
Nylander, both on Team Canada. I like that
That'd be
idea.
good.
I like that idea. All right, boys. We've got football all
Stuff.
weekend, hockey all weekend, basketball all weekend. Juan Soto could sign at any point. Sure, the Jays are working hard, diligently trying to get things
lost.
done.
He's a Met.
Probably
You
a
think
Met
so?
or a Yankee.
Met?
It's one of the two. He's in New York,
Yankee.
would be my guess. All right, we're out of here. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, or web. We appreciate that. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at...
Massive Sunday for Owen Wilson, so watch yourself. 4 p.m. on Monday.
We'll chat then.